This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Each week, Tom and I are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. And today, we're going to be talking about potentially the greatest problem facing retirees, especially here in the state of California. We're going to be talking about taxes. But Tom, before we get into the meat of all that, hello to you. And I know that there is a myth that you want to make sure you dispel for all of our listeners this weekend as well.
Absolutely. Kristen, a lot of people, when they come in, or if they're friends of mine and they see me and they see us on television, recently we were right after one of the big playoff games and we just were inundated with calls. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people come in and they say, well, I saw your infomercial. Well, you got to understand an infomercial is something you shoot one time, you do it over and over and over again, you perfect it down to just the right, you might take 2 or 3 takes on it. I've got a friend in Florida who does an infomercial. He does one every 3 months and he just shows that show over and over and over again. I want you to know, if you're out there and you're listening, that this is not an infomercial. Kristen and I put together something and we collaborate and then we write out the things we're going to talk about, and I do some in-depth study. A lot of times the information we're talking about comes directly from what we're talking about in the conference rooms of our 5 offices spread over Southern California. But every single show is a new show. And also it's not a tease. We're not, I listen to, when you're in the business, you listen to other shows, and I listen to other shows, and it seems like every 60 seconds or 45 seconds, call me, get on my schedule, call me, get on my schedule, call me. That's what they're doing. I feel like this is a time to teach. I have 3 goals, whether you're listening here on the radio or you watch us on Channel 9 in the LA area, or on the ABC station down in San Diego on Sunday, Channel 9's on Saturday. We move the time around a little bit, so you can just look for Right on the Money. But I have 3 goals. Even when we do our live events, I always have the goal of, number 1, making sure that everybody finds value. Number 2, you learn something every time. And if I can just, you may listen for the whole hour and you may only learn something for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes might be able to save you $100,000 in retirement. That's important. And then number 3, if you do want to come in and meet with us, we will be glad to meet with you. I have 6 all-star advisors, 5 offices spread all over Southern California. So make sure you understand this is not an infomercial. Okay. So I really want to dispel that myth.
Absolutely. Well, and I know I can attest for how much hard work you put into each and every show, television show, radio show, live event. That is the heartbeat of Mosley Wealth Management, is really to educate and empower folks and really just be able to connect with them and provide these retirement planning solutions. So I'm so grateful that it's not an infomercial. I wouldn't be doing it if it was, but right. I love being able to provide value and getting to serve Southern California. It's such a joy.
Good. Let's talk about taxes. Ecclesiastes says there's a time for everything. There's a time to be born. There's a time to die, a time to plant and harvest, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build up. When it comes to taxes, There's a time to pay them,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a time to legally avoid them if you possibly can. And so I'm going to, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, work with you, Kristen, and all of you out there. We're going to do our best in the next 2 to 3, maybe stretch it into 4 weeks, because everybody's thinking about taxes right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start with basically some tax 101 tips and just move through various thoughts on taxes, ways to save you money. I'm not here to just give you information about taxes, but I'm here to try to allow you to see some legal ways to help you save, or some decisions you make on taxes that might save you just an absolute ton of money through retirement. I am not a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an accountant. Let's be very clear. I am a financial planner, but I'll promise you, I have helped people save millions of dollars in taxes over the 29 years that I've been doing this. When I first started, I was working out of a little office up in Pasadena with MetLife,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole goal was to help make sure from the very beginning in 1995 to make sure people don't run out of money in retirement. I wanted to work with retirees. They thought I was crazy. Pick doctors, pick engineers. And even in 1995, and here's the different context culturally, baby boomers were just turning 50 in 1995. Okay.
I can't believe that much time's passed since then. That's crazy, but you're right.
I know. And
Mhm.
that's 29 years ago, Kristen.
Mhm.
And all of you who were baby boomers were the oldest. If you're the oldest baby boomer listening to us, you were just turning 50 in 1995. So everybody who was a financial planner was not hanging that shingle out like they are now and saying they're a retirement expert.
Mhm.
Okay. Because what I see from the statements that come into us and the planning or lack thereof that's done by a lot of brokers with the big box firms is they're just accumulation specialists still that are good for 25 and 30 and 35-year-olds. How much can I make you this year so you stay with me? But when you get to retirement, it's how long am I going to be able to live off of this before I run out of money? Or please help me make sure I don't run out of money. So I started saying, I want to make sure people don't run out of money, because I'd been in the ministry.
Mhm.
I'd been in charge of benevolence, and I had people come to me trying to decide whether to buy food or medicine.
Yeah.
So that was the motivation for me to get started. And it still is the mission of my company, to make sure, number one, people never run out of sufficient income the rest of their life. And number two, I added this later because it didn't take me very long to see that taxes are the biggest thing that will separate people from their retirement.
Yes. And it's
And
one of the biggest things that can derail someone's retirement easily.
because people come in and if you're out there and you've got $800,000 in your 401k or your IRAs, I want to talk to you right now, and I want to tell you, you do not have $800,000.
Mm-hmm.
You have $800,000 with a partner, and that is the U.S. government. And the U.S. government can and does change the rules on retirement on a regular basis, almost like they were $34 trillion in debt and needed more and more money. And your IRA, your 401k, your 403b, your 457, none of that has ever been taxed. So I promise you, you need to guard it. You need to guard that basket. Will Rogers had a quote. He said that the only difference between death and taxes is death doesn't change every time Congress meets. Okay. And so they will change the rules. So we need to know about taxes. And that's what we're going to do in the next few weeks here on our show, Right on the Money, right where you're listening to it right now.
Well, and I know one of the things that you always say that you are so passionate about helping folks do at Moseley Wealth Management is helping everyone pay as the least amount of taxes they are legally required to pay. And that's why this discussion is so important, because to your point, Tom, at the end of the day, it's not about how much you have, it's about how much you get to keep. It's about turning what you've accumulated into that reliable income stream for yourself. And we don't want taxes to derail that.
It very, very easily could. And it comes from all different ways. And you just need to stay tuned to what we're doing over the next few weeks. And we'll show you all the different ways that taxes can hit you. The biggest thing people need to know right off the bat, Kristen, is your tax bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And the bracket is what you pay on the percentage of tax you pay. And I'm talking just federal on this show. There are California taxes on a lot of things, and some there's not much California tax. But the bracket that you're in could be a 10% bracket if you're married and you file jointly. That goes up to around $23,200 this year of taxable income. Goes up just a minor bit to 12% tax on everything between $23,201 up to $94,000, a little over $94,000. But then after $94,300, it takes a big jump to 22%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a 10% jump. And it's not every dollar you make, but when you go from $94,300, that last dollar you made, it's taxed federally at 12%, and it jumps to $94,301. That next dollar you make is taxed at 22%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really crucial that you know your tax bracket. The other big jump comes up around $383,000. Some of you are in that range. $383,900, you're at 24% tax. It floated along okay there for a while, and then all of a sudden it jumps to 32%.
Mm-hmm.
If you're single, you can cut all those numbers in half. You jump to the 22% tax bracket at $47,151, and you jump to the 32% bracket at $191,000. It's so important for you to know. Now, you need to make all the money that you possibly can and save all the money that you possibly can, but you better know your tax bracket. Here's what I want to ask you. Is your advisor even talking to you about how you can actively reduce your taxes in your current retirement plan? I have so many people come in. You guys come in, you talk to me, you talk to our advisors, and you say, my advisor never talks about taxes. We'll get into why a little bit later in the show. But you need to be actively looking at your tax situation, and you need to be planning it. And a lot of times we present people with tax ideas, and people call us back and they say, well, I'm just going to stay with my advisor because he said he could do that too. My question is this: why hasn't he or she been working with you to reduce your tax burden? It is crucial in retirement. You need to be working with an advisor who addresses that. Kristen, tell them how they can get a hold of us.
Absolutely. So if you have questions about your own tax situation, this is what Tom and the team of Moseley Wealth Management would love to be able to help and serve you with as part of you receiving your very own personalized retirement blueprint. Simply call 888-930-5609 to schedule a time to come in and receive that blueprint, and they will gladly have this tax conversation with you. More on today's episode regarding taxes right after this. Do you know how much you might be paying in fees within your retirement accounts? Just 1 or 2% in hidden fees can eat into your savings and potentially hinder your ability to achieve your retirement goals. But how do you know if you're currently paying these hidden fees, and how do you find them? Tom Moseley and the team of retirement planners at Moseley Wealth Management can help you find the fees within your investments and explore solutions designed to assist with minimizing them. Take control of your retirement savings so that you can work towards keeping more of your hard-earned money. Call for your very own complimentary retirement blueprint and fee review. Let us help work towards finding, exposing, and helping to eliminate those potential hidden fees for you. Call the Moseley Wealth Management team at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Tom, a fiduciary advisor here in Southern California, loves being able to help and educate and serve you. And we are having a very important conversation today about taxes. Clearly, one of the biggest obstacles that retirees face today, especially in the great state of California. It can easily derail your retirement. And Tom, in the last segment, we were talking about why knowing your tax brackets are so important. And of course, you just reviewed some of the new numbers for 2024. Let's pick up with our conversation there and continue on about the difference between tax planning, which is what you specialize in doing, and tax preparation as well.
Okay, let's jump into why it's important to know your tax bracket, okay? Because it's one thing to say know it, but I got to tell you out there why it's important to know it. Let's say you're in retirement. Let's say it comes down to November and you're planning a cruise in June and you want to pay for it, or you're planning a safari. And I'm picking those two because in the past 2 weeks, I've had clients who've come in and that's exactly what they were planning on doing.
Nice.
And let's say you come, yeah, I know, it would be nice.
Can I come too?
Exactly. And you know what? Side note here, nothing to do with taxes. If you're out there, you better have a plan that'll give you the confidence to do that in your go-go years, because if you get to the slow-go years, you might not want to go on the safari and you might not want to do the river cruise in Europe. But anyway, back to taxes, okay? Let's say you need $30,000. Let's say it's November. Then I'm going to ask you, where is your money? Is it in a qualified plan? A qualified plan is you say all these terms are hard to understand. Let me explain them to you. A qualified plan is something like a regular IRA or a 401k or a 403b or a 457, and it all still has to be taxed. A non-qualified plan is one where the basis of it, what you put in there, is already taxed, and you only get taxed on the growth of the non-qualified plan. Let me go further with an example. If you have $100,000, like a lot of people do right now, it's just sitting in a money market. Yeah, it's making more than it used to, but it's still not keeping up with inflation.
Right.
But let's say that $100,000 grows at 4%, and you've got $104,000 in that account. If you take it all out of that non-qualified money market account that's grown $4,000, you're going to pay tax on $4,000, just the growth of it. But if you have $100,000 in an IRA and it grows 4% to $104,000, and for some reason you want to take all of that money out of that IRA, then you are going to pay regular income tax on all of that $104,000, because the bulk of the money, that money that you put in originally, has never been taxed. You say, why is that important? Say, I don't need $100,000 to do a safari, but no, maybe you need 30. Okay. You need $30,000. If you call me and ask me, Tom, I need $30,000 to go on a safari and really have the trip of a lifetime, I'm going to come back to you and say, how much are you making this year? If you're married filing jointly and you tell me you're making $50,000, here's why your tax brackets are important. You could take another $30,000 out and add that 30 to your 50,000 that you're making this year in income, and you still are well within the 12% tax bracket. But if you come back and you tell me I need 30,000, what's your income this year? Well, my taxable income is going to be $100,000. You're already in the 22% tax bracket. So if we took another 30 out of the IRA and we added it, then you would be paying tax at 22%. So the difference is, let me put it in real numbers. The difference is, if you're in the right tax bracket, you might only be paying $3,600 tax on that. If you're in the wrong tax bracket, you might be paying $6,600 tax on that. Wow. So that's why it's important to know your brackets and know where your money is. Now, if you've been working with a good financial planner who's really working in your best interest, who's a fiduciary, then you probably most likely have, you say, I don't know if I have money in those different accounts. Remember, the qualified is like the money you rolled over from your 401k. I had a guy came in this week, Kristen, and he sat down with me and he said, that money's not taxable anymore because I just 2 years ago rolled it out of my 401k into an IRA. Well, I was the bearer of bad news. Fortunately, he did not kill the messenger, but the money that you roll out of your 401k into an IRA is still qualified money. Every penny that comes out of there still has to be taxed.
Right. And I always, just to clarify too, because these terms do get confusing, the way I like to think about it is, if it's a qualified account, that's also saying the same thing as it's a tax deferred account, but qualified meaning you qualify to pay taxes on that money. That's what that means.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Yeah, it's got a little asterisk by it. Whoops, it's not all yours, like we said in the first segment.
Right.
And that's why we like the non-qualified account, because what you put in there has already been taxed and it grows. And as it grows, you get that little 1099. Remember, if you've got a savings account at the bank and it's got $10,000 in it and you're about to receive a 1099 on $3.67, you know,
Right.
because that's what you grew in that money market. That's a non-qualified account. The other kind of account that a good financial planner will probably look to have you get involved in, and especially if you're out there, you're listening to me, you're 25, 30 years old, pay as much tax as you can right now, because I've never run in yet to the person who thinks we're going to be paying less tax in the future. In fact, stay tuned to this series. We're going to talk about how we know there are going to be raises in the future and where they're trying to change tax and make us get taxed more. But a Roth IRA. Now, how do you spell that? ROTH IRA. You pay the tax before it goes in, but you never pay the tax on it again the rest of your life. As it grows, all of that growth is tax-free. All of the money that you take out is tax-free. So a good financial planner who's really in it for your best interest is probably going to coach you through the years. You say, well, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50. I don't need a retirement planner. No, wait a minute. If you're going to go to the safari and you're not going to go this year, but you're going to go next year, it still doesn't hurt you to find out how much it costs, where the best places to go, what is it going to look like when I get there, so that you can do the right planning early. And that's why a good financial planner is probably going to put some money and leave it in a qualified account, roll it over from your IRA, from your 401k, have some in a non-qualified account, have some in a Roth. If you're young, try to pay as much tax now as you can and get it in the Roth and never pay tax on it again. If you're older, try to convert some of that money from the qualified plans into the Roth. So, you know, so there's so many things, and it all depends on what you're making each year. When people come in, I say, how much are you making this year? And it's not uncommon for some of you to tell me, well, I've had a really good year and I just got my bonus for last year and our company had a good year, so I got a $40,000 or a $50,000 bonus. Let's go back to the tax brackets. That's going to drive you higher in a tax bracket and probably make those non-qualified funds more attractive this year for taking them out, okay? But if you say, well, our company didn't have a good year, we didn't get the bonus we normally had, that might be a great time to do tax planning, to take the money out of the qualified plans if you're over 59 and a half. That might be a great time to convert some more money over into a Roth. So those are real life situations that we run into. And that's why I say I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax accountant. I can't prepare your taxes legally, and I can't give you legal tax advice, but I could show you how by making financial planning moves, you can save yourself a bundle of money in tax.
Yes.
Let me give you a real life situation, okay? We just had a couple came to us. They're becoming our clients. They're moving out of the country. He's retiring with a 401k, couple of $100,000 in it. We're going to roll that into a qualified pre-taxed IRA because he doesn't want to pay the tax on it right now.
Right.
They also just sold their home, $550,000, but they want to buy a home where they're going. Kristen, they get to go to Italy. Can you believe that?
Good
and
for
live there
them.
the rest of their life.
Wow.
But they think that the dwelling they're going to buy there is going to cost about $250,000 in about a year. We're not dare putting that money in the stock market because I don't know what the market's going to do in the next year.
Right.
So that $250,000 will go into something like a money market account. But that's after tax money because it's the proceeds of their selling their house, paying the capital gains. The other 300 will go into a trust account. They have a trust. We're going to put 300,000 into the stock market, invest it because that's their future money that they're going to live off of. So how you're going to use the money makes a big difference, and how much you're making makes a big difference. Here's the bottom line point you need to consider out there. If you say, well, I don't really have a tax plan, sorry to tell you, you do. The government has one for you.
Yes.
You say, well, I don't want to follow theirs. Then you've got to get your own, okay? And by getting your own, you work with somebody who's not just looking back at what you're going to have to. So many people right now, so many of you are worried about taxes for what you've got to pay for 2023. I'm asking you to forget that for a minute. I'm asking you to consider what you're going to pay in taxes in 2024, 25, 26, all the way through the rest of your life. That is crucial. But you've got to work with somebody who's going to help you develop your own tax plan. Okay? You've got to develop your own, or you're going to fall back to what the government has for you. Kristen, tell them how they can get in touch with us.
For sure. So if you would like to have a plan yourself for your taxes and not just rely on the one the government has for you, that's what Tom and the team of Moseley Wealth Management is offering you. This is complimentary to our radio listeners. You are welcome to call 888-930-5609 to receive your very own retirement blueprint. And as part of that, you're going to be able to see your tax numbers in real time so that you can engage in strategic tax planning. 888-930-5609. More on Right on the Money with Tom Moseley right after this. Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Moseley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Is having $1 million enough to retire? For years, many have considered this to be the goal amount to have for retirement savings, $1 million. But that's the $1 million question. Is that enough for today's modern retiree? Are you sure you've saved enough for a 25 or 30-year retirement? Are you concerned about covering large expenses, including taxes and long-term care? If so, you're not alone. But there is a solution. With a comprehensive financial plan, you can take control of your finances to help you achieve your long-term goals. At Moseley Wealth Management, let us help you work towards peace of mind by implementing a complete retirement strategy. Call Tom Moseley and the team of Moseley Wealth Management right away to receive your complimentary, comprehensive written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley, CEO and President of Moseley Wealth Management, based right here in Southern California. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're having a very important conversation on taxes today. We're actually doing an entire series to help you save as much money as possible on your taxes. I know that one of the things that a lot of folks are stressed out about are capital gains taxes. And no doubt you see this a lot with folks, especially with real estate in California. So let's start off this segment talking a little bit more about capital gains, what folks need to understand, and then we're going to go through some practical examples of how this plays out.
Fantastic. Capital gains is when you invest in something and you make money, and you make more money than you paid for it. If you invest in a house and it grows in value, which is almost universal, given a period of time. If it grows in value, the capital gain is the difference between your basis, or what you bought it for, and what it's worth now. For instance, if I just had a client that it was a young couple, they're in their 30s, and they bought a house. They bought it for $400,000, or right in that range, and then they were selling that house. and they were not in a position where they were going to be able to move that over into another house. The capital gains, there's a way to do that too. It's a 1031 exchange. I'm not a realtor and I'm not a tax person, but I do know these things, and they were able to, could have been able to move it, but they couldn't. They had to just take the capital gains. Well, they sold it for $345,000 more than what they paid for it. $745,000. So only that money was typically available to be charged to capital gains. Plus, they've got exclusions, $250,000, a lot of things like that. So here's my point. So many people, Kristen, and so many of you out there, when you come into the office, you are so afraid of what your capital gains are going to be. And for every person that I thought, oh, I'm not going to have very much capital gains on that, I've had 100 people who've come in and said, oh, I'm afraid a capital gain is going to take every single penny of what I get from that house. It will not. You're never going to be taxed at 100%. So please understand, you need to, if you don't know, then the unknown is what scares you. But you do need to know what kind of capital gains you're going to have when you sell something that's gained in value. Now, if you lose money, if you invest in a stock and it's in a non-qualified account, you've already paid tax on the money that you bought the stock with, and you lose money, that's a capital loss. So you're able to write that off. So you need to know your capital gains. Now, the brackets are important. If you're single, you pay, and your whole taxable income, including your capital gains and your regular income, mounts up to less than $47,000. You have no capital gains. It's a zero bracket. If you're married, that's $94,000 is a zero bracket for capital gains. And then from single 47,000 to a little over 500,000, you get to 15% capital gains. Married, 94,000 to almost 600,000 is 15%. And then after that, it goes to 20%. So you could actually have a lower capital gains bracket than you have an income tax bracket, because those go much higher and than the capital gains brackets.
Gosh, so much goes into this. And I know that you have such a wealth of real world examples where you've walked through this with folks. And you mentioned in the last segment a couple that is actually going to be moving to Italy. And I want to go back to their example, because you talked about how they sold the home, and obviously they had to navigate this capital gains as well. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, they sold a home. They sold that home that they had, I'm going to give some approximate numbers here. They had bought the home for around $300,000. They sold the home for $580,000. And they had lived in the home for over 3 years. And so therefore, each of them got a $250,000 capital gains exclusion. So that $500,000 plus what they paid for the house, they had no capital gains.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was no capital gains whatsoever. So that's one way where the exclusions, when you sell a home, you need to check with your realtor, check with your CPA and tax person, because your situation is peculiar and particular to you, but you may have no capital gains. A lot of people come in, well, I think I'm going to have big capital gains if I sell my house, and they end up having no capital gains.
Wow.
So it's really important that they understand that.
Well, let's go through some other examples where capital gains can come into play. So first up, let's talk about someone who might be selling a business.
I've got a client that I am actually meeting with on the first of this week. I think it's Tuesday that I'm meeting with them, and they are considering selling a business. And one of their questions that they wrote me in a long email of questions, they said, these are the questions we'd like to address when we come in. Kristen, when somebody comes in to see us, we don't start with our agenda. We start with their agenda. And they were selling a business, and they were saying, should we sell the business by just taking a flow of income? And it was like $300,000 or $400,000 a year that they were planning on taking and selling the business and then turning the business over to their general manager. Or should we sell it by taking income, or should we just have an event and actually sell it? Well, if you have an event and you actually sell it, that's a capital gain. It's 15 or 20%. However, if you sell it and you take income, and you're taking $400,000 worth of income, that's a 32% tax bracket on that marginal tax money. So you've got to be really careful. It may be more advantageous depending on what your income is, depending on how much you're getting from the sale of income. If you sell it on an income, or if you sell it by just selling it straight outright, you've got to consider your situation as to whether it would be a best decision to sell it and take the capital gains, or just draw an income from it and take the income flow from it throughout your lifetime.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
So much that plays into that. I'm really glad they're going to be able to walk through that with you, because there's a lot to know. And we always say this, how you make a decision in one area can affect all the others. Well, another thing I know folks are confused about often is the difference between long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains. So share about that.
Generally, anything is long-term. I know it doesn't sound like long-term when you're 60 years old and you're looking at something, you say, well, that wasn't very long. But anything you hold for more than a year generally is considered long-term capital gains or capital losses. Anything that you hold for less than 365 days is generally considered short-term capital gains. Now, here's the difference. The long-term capital gains, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the 0, the 15, and the 20% tax brackets. The short-term capital gain is taxed at regular income rates. That may be 10, it may be 12, it's more likely to be 22, 24, hold on to your seats here, 32, 35, or could even be 37% interest on a short-term capital gains. Some of you received a 1099 on a mutual fund or an investment you had with your broker, and you didn't make any money to speak of, or you didn't sell anything last year, but you got either a short-term or a long-term 1099 on that this month. How did I do that? Because something within that investment they held sold, and you were charged either long-term or short-term capital gains because you're holding the investment and the sale was made within the investment. Some people call it a phantom gain or a phantom tax, and they might have sold at the December 28th, and they might have sold something. One time I had a client come in, and they said this person sold something, and it cost them $90,000 extra in capital gains taxes. So you got to be careful about long-term and short-term, and when you're selling, and how much you've got capital gains within that investment that you're selling.
It just really speaks to the importance of engaging in this tax planning, because, we said this earlier in the show, there is a difference between looking ahead and planning for these things to help mitigate the tax liability versus just looking at last year and seeing what you owe, for example, for 2023. I mean, it's that macro view versus the micro view, right?
The macro view is looking down the road and saying, how much am I going to pay in taxes over the next 20, 25, or 30 years of retirement on my money? The micro view is only being concerned with how much tax do I have to pay for last year. And you're looking in the rear view mirror going down the road of life, looking that micro way, and you're looking through the windshield of life if you're going the macro way. We want to help you look the macro way. What can we do? We will take your portfolio and we'll run a tax report on it to show you how that if you go the government's way, you can pay X amount, which is usually more than double, sometimes more than triple what if you have your own tax plan. But you've got to call in, get on our schedule to get a tax report.
Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management can help and serve you. To receive this complimentary tax report, simply call 888-930-5609. More with Right on the Money right after this. Will you outlive your money? It's a scary thought, but it's a real concern for many people. In our opinion, that's why it's crucial to have a solid retirement plan in place. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today to learn how we can help you create a retirement plan that can potentially help you obtain peace of mind and security for years to come. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Take control of your financial future today by calling 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are having a lively discussion today on all things taxes. This is part of a series that we are doing. We know that taxes are on the top of everyone's minds, especially this time of year. But we are talking today about the importance of engaging in strategic tax planning. And Tom, I know this is something you are very passionate about. You've been able to help so many folks over the years save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over the 29 years you've been doing this. We were talking in the last segment about capital gains, and I know that one of the other areas of capital gains tax that can really trip people up is the step up in cost basis. So can you shed some light on that?
A step up in basis basically says this, and it's a little bit difficult to unravel, so think with me here. A step up in basis means that if I have a basis in something, that's how much it cost me. Mm-hmm. And that basis, if I sell that, whatever it is, if it's a widget, and I paid $300,000 for the widget, and I sell it for $600,000, my basis is $300,000, and I have to consider capital gains tax on the gain that I've had of $300,000. Mm-hmm. Now, a step up in basis has to do with when you inherit something or when you receive something. For instance, if I have a $300,000 widget and it's worth $600,000, and if I'm single and I leave that to my child inherits that widget at $600,000 as their basis because it's the day that I passed away and left it to them. What was it worth when they inherited it? Mm-hmm. It was worth $600,000. So that's what we mean by a step up in basis. It's particularly true of homes, mm-hmm. and particularly true of highly appreciated stock. So those are the big things that are there. For instance, highly appreciated stock. I always like to give stories. Mm-hmm. We've got a very special couple that are our clients, and they came in about 3 or 4 years ago, and they said, Tom, we've got a problem. Many of you are going to rush to try to have this problem, but they said that we inherited about 3 or 4 years ago, $1.8 million, and I'm trying to remember the exact amount, but it was a little less than $2 million worth of Apple stock. Mm. I said, that's great. What's your problem? They said, well, now it's worth over almost $4 million. Okay?
That's a good problem to have in a lot of ways, right?
Right. So even though they inherited it at $1.8 million in just 3 or 4 years because it was, Apple's grown at such pace, mm-hmm. they've got a $2 million capital gains issue. And they say, as Apple continues to grow, we consider this a growing problem. What do we do with that? Mm-hmm. So what we've done is they're concerned about what they're going to have to live off of and what they're going to have to pay in tax in their lifetime. So we've carved off enough money that with their other retirement plans and pensions and Social Security, we've carved off enough of that Apple stock and paid tax on it, capital gains tax. Remember, capital gains is 0, 15, or 20%, a lot less than regular income tax. So we've carved off enough that we've built a retirement plan for them, and then we've left the rest of that Apple stock to just highly appreciate. Mm. Because you say, what are you going to do with that? Well, they have children. Mm-hmm. And that Apple stock is going to go as either a gift to charities, and they receive that tax-free, or a gift to their children, and they will receive it with a step up in basis. So it's really important that you're thinking and working. A lot of people would be working with a broker who's a genius, mm-hmm. who's had Apple stock for 5 years and it's doubled in value. Okay, anybody can do that with Apple stock, but it has also created a humongous potential tax issue with capital gains if you don't have your own tax plan. Mm-hmm. So you understand it's a difference in just what am I growing it to, but how much am I going to have to pay in tax? How much are my heirs going to have to pay in tax? Mm-hmm. When we retire, how much are we going to have to pay in tax? That macro view rather than the micro view, and that long-term view of a fiduciary who's looking out for your best interests rather than just a broker who's looking out to make you money, which is important, but not the ultimate.
Exactly. I think it's important to talk about this being a family thing, a family conversation. I know this is something that's come up in our own family. My parents owned rental property in Mission Viejo, and when they decide to sell it, they did a 1031 exchange, and the conversation came up on this whole conversation of capital gains tax, of how do we mitigate this? Meaning, my dad used to say, well, the best case scenario is that mom and I just pass away and then you all receive the step up in basis, right?
Right.
And we're going, okay, we understand what you're saying. We don't want you to pass away anytime soon. But it really does affect all the family members, especially, for people who are planning to leave assets to a younger generation, and for the younger generation who might be potentially inheriting these assets. You want to make sure that the tax planning is done, because nothing's worse than someone thinking they're leaving an incredible gift behind for someone, but with it coming a tax burden that could have been mitigated.
Exactly. Here's what happens sometimes. People in their 80s pass away and they leave to their children in their 50s who are at their highest earning years.
Mm-hmm.
They leave them a tax burden, like from an IRA or a 401k. You say it's a gift, it's an inheritance. It is, but when they're in their 50s at their highest income earning years, and since 2019, Congress has mandated that IRA or 401k be taken out within 10 years.
Right.
So if you leave your children $1 million in IRAs, they've got to add to their tax burdens, many times in their 50s, another $100,000 a year. And that just raises their brackets and sometimes costs them on their capital gains. But here's the issue. My parents were the same way that I'm going to describe. If you're in your 40s and 50s and your parents don't have a trust and they don't have planning done for retirement, you need to get on the phone and you need to get us an appointment with them and approach your parents very carefully. Many times they respond like a porcupine. I mean, they're like a stingray in the ocean. They're going to sting you when you approach, because that's their money. You're trying to take their inheritance. You're trying to get your inheritance early, and you're not trying to do that at all. You're just trying to get them to do basic tax planning. And it's important that you understand that. For the past 10 plus years, when they're talking about raising taxes or changing the way things are taxed, they've talked about doing away with this step up in basis.
Yes. Yeah. Talk about that.
Well, I've got a client who, the young lady was in her teens when she was in my youth group back in the early 80s in Odessa, Texas. And she and her mom, single parent, they moved to Texas, to Highland Park. They bought a $200,000 house, which in the 80s in Texas was a really nice house. And what they did was, they called me about Sherry became a client of mine. We still got a good relationship. She's in her 50s now. She called me about a year ago and she said, mom's about to pass away and she's on hospice and we have somebody who wants to buy her house. I said, Sherry, what's it worth? And they said $1.2 million.
Wow.
So her mom paid $200 for it, has a $250,000 exclusion. That's $450,000 worth of basis. Her mom, if they sold it for 1.2, would have to pay capital gains on $750,000. Under current law, if she sold it. Now, Sherry, on the other hand, let me tell you what happened. She called me back about 3 weeks later and she said, Mom passed away. I said, Sherry, I'm really sorry. She was a very nice lady. I said, does that family still want to buy your mom's house? She said, absolutely. They're calling me about every 4 or 5 days. I said, go sell it to them. Here's why. The night that her mom passed away, Sherry inherited that property at $1.2 million worth of value. She got a step up in basis. So Sherry could then sell the house to that couple and pay no capital gains out of that sale of $1.2 million. That's the law. That's the way it's written. They're talking about doing away with that. And you think about leaving what you have to your children. What you want to do is you want to leave it to them without them paying a lot of tax. If they ever start talking about doing away with the step up in basis, you need to start raising your hand and calling your senator and calling your representative and say, don't do that. It's a great way to pass along wealth that some families created to the next generation. Taxes are a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Taxes are a huge factor. And again, all of this has the potential to derail your retirement dreams if it's not planned for. And I think, especially the story you just shared and the conversation around them doing away with the step-up basis really proves that we are exposed to something called legislative risk, meaning that the powers that be in Washington could change the tax rules at any point in time. We have to take advantage of what is at our disposal now. And this is why it's such a critical time to make sure folks are engaging in strategic tax planning.
Well, here's the way to do that too. The way to do that is to pick up the phone. A lot of times we tell you to info your questions to us at info@Mosley Wealth Management. If you've got a question about something else, that's fine. But on taxes, for everything you ask me, there's going to be about 10 questions that come back if you sit down with me or one of our other advisors. We've got offices in Glendale, Arcadia, Ontario, Anaheim, and Scripps Ranch. We've got opportunities on our schedule for you to meet with us and talk about your particular tax situation. Say, I don't have a tax plan. You do. The government has one for you. I don't have a tax report. I don't know what I'm going to pay in retirement in taxes. We can give you one. It's called a tax report, but you've got to get an appointment with us for us to be able to talk about your particular situation. You're different than anyone else, and we need to meet with you to find out your best macro tax plan for the future. Quit looking back. Start looking forward.
Tom, thank you so much. And we encourage you, there's never been a better time for you to make this phone call to receive your personalized retirement blueprint and, of course, the tax plan that comes with it. All you need to do is call 888-930-5609 to schedule a time to come in and receive this information that has the potential to change your tax future. We appreciate you joining us. Until next week, be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you on Right on the Money.
Tom Mosley and the team have helped thousands of folks like you in Southern California plan for their retirement. Now make the call yourself. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.